Now it's time to bring this information back home to UNC Greensboro. Now I've been asking you throughout to be thinking about how you're going to use this information to make changes in your life and your relationships and your current employment here at the university. So let's begin to explore what this means a little bit more. We know as student development professionals that student development is a complex process in all cases. And student development theory identifies key developmental milestones for all students, from developing autonomy to developing competencies, managing emotions, maturing interpersonal relationships, to developing integrity, developing purpose, and establishing a core identity. It's important to highlight that students in recovery have many additional challenges and developmental processes in addition to those experienced by the general student population, and this results in a very complicated student development. Some of the unique challenges of students in recovery include challenges that emerge even before they're admitted. Having to come to an admissions office and explain why their GPA is so low, or why they failed out of another university, or why they have a criminal record. So this creates additional barriers to even getting to school. We know that one of the largest populations of substance use exists among teens and young adults. So in fact, this is the largest population that receives substance use treatment, which means that many students are transitioning from treatment into higher education, either for the first time or after a leave of absence. So oftentimes recovery happens within a system of recovery supports, and this includes social supports as well as treatment services. So transitioning to a new location includes new challenges in building those recovery supports. This is why Greensboro attracts a lot of young people in recovery, because there's such a strong recovery community in the Greensboro community and a large treatment provider that folks transition to. So the fact is that Greensboro could be a really significant leader in providing a bridge from transitioning from treatment into recovery and then into higher education. Building recovery supports can also be challenging when considering the challenges in disclosing one's recovery status. We've talked today about continued stigma associated with addiction and recovery and how this influences policies and procedures, and how this translates into discriminatory practices. So college campuses are often referred to as what we've called abstinence hostile environments. And this exposes students in recovery to constant triggers, making finding sober social activities very difficult. Socializing often becomes difficult. You think of students that go out for a drink afterwards, or faculty that make jokes about drinking, or faculty that take their students out for drinks after class, or meet at bars for class. These things exist and make it very difficult for a student in recovery to focus on their education, to thrive in their education. Those spaces aren't safe. We know that social norms of substance use as a rite of passage or relearning life skills is also a challenge. Tasks such as managing a budget, paying bills, can be very challenging. Perhaps two of the most profound challenges that I have learned about are achieving full potential and balancing recovery identities as a student and as a person in recovery. So oftentimes either students focus so much on their academics that their recovery suffers, or they focus so much on their recovery that their academics suffer. And while students in recovery are typically pretty successful given the strengths and resilience that they have, it's not without barriers and challenges. And these barriers and challenges interfere with their ability to achieve their full potential. And that's the underlying theory of the Spartan Recovery Program, that students enter into institutions of higher education with additional barriers. And it's those barriers that interfere with their ability to achieve an enriched college experience. So it's our belief that by inserting the Spartan Recovery Program, we can either eliminate or reduce those barriers, thus enhancing and enriching the college experience for students in recovery. And we would argue enriching the college experience for other students and the larger community as well. There are several reasons or common reasons that young adults give for returning to use after a period of recovery. And these have been grouped into several categories. The first category are emotional reasons. And these stem from challenges just coping, a desire to feel better in some way and still reverting back to things in the past that frankly had worked. So as we work with allies, it's about developing these emotional strategies and competencies and skills. Life stressors is another common reason, and this can range from parental criticism to fitting into financial problems. There's also cognitive reasons, and these are things like motivation, things like dealing with cravings, or just managing self-concept and confidence. Then there are socialization-related reasons, and these are things like social networks and how we see alcohol and drugs talked about on college campuses. We might see on college campuses that substance use is viewed as a rite of passage of sorts. And thankfully, we've seen at UNC Greensboro that this hasn't been the case. But it doesn't mean that folks don't still experience that. And then there are environmental reasons. And this is just simple access to services, but also potential or a lack of access to services, but also access to drugs and alcohol. And even though UNC Greensboro might not have a drug and alcohol problem similar to other universities, it still happens.